Well, they would lose money if Paul Ryan's would go through.
Absolutely.
So, this is the Saul Alinsky rules for radicals position, and the left has it. And even some people on the right have it, too. When I say right, I'm talking about Republicans, not necessarily conservatives. I try to distinguish myself between that group because I'm not really an established Republican guy any more than I would be a progressive, because I think they're both kind of in the same wheelhouse. But yeah, the first thing you do is take something that's of value and marginalize it, and ridicule it, demean it, and make sure that no one pays any attention to it, because it would be a stupid thing to do. That's Saul Alinsky in and out all over again. And that's how they operate. That's the political climate that we live in today. And people need to know that these are all straw men. It's like this war on women. I mean, is there really a war on women? I don't think so. But we would all be led to believe that there's a war on women because the media says there's a war on women. The progressives say there's a war on women. And the Republicans want to take this away from women. Would that be the stupidest thing on earth, to have a war on women who are, 52% of the voting constituency? It's stupid. But they say it with a straight face, knowing that there's so many people out there who would say, yes, I'm a woman, and they're having a war on me, so I'm not going to vote for them. I mean, it's just misleading, terribly misleading.
I couldn't agree more. And my listeners know I am not an establishment Republican. In fact, if anything, I'm against the establishment from either side.
Well, look what they did to the Tea Party.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the establishment of Republicans marginalized them as badly as the progressives did.
Yep.
And what did they want? A balanced budget. I mean, who's against a balanced budget?
How radical, right?
I mean, honestly, it's ridiculous. If people would just think these things through and become a little knowledgeable, they could fight back with a great force and really change things, really change this country.
I agree. And look what happens, though, when they do stand up. They get beaten down and demonized.
I don't care.
I don't either.
They started doing that to me. I remember there's something on the internet right now that said I didn't think that blacks needed civil rights, and I didn't think gays needed rights and all this kind of stuff, and I made a hate connection. That was just the Saul Alinsky progressives trying to marginalize me. Of course, I don't believe any of that, but that's how they characterize what I said.
Exactly.
And so it's I don't look. I figure people know who I am, and they know me from television. They pretty much know who I am. So I don't worry about people trying to characterize me and turn me into something that they think I should be or that I am.
Exactly, and that's one thing when you do speak out, you just have to expect that, and you have to learn how to just know that it's going to happen and just keep moving forward, because if you really believe in what you believe, that's not going to deter you.
Conservative message will always win out, always.
I've got one thing that I do on my show. It's about We the People, and so I give my listeners actually an opportunity to ask a question. The number one question I got, and I got this from a lot of people, but I'm going to go ahead and read from Brenda. It says, Don, I have a question that I'd like to ask Mr. Woolery. A large percentage of Hollywood entertainers tend to lean left and support the liberal way of thinking. Most are very vocal, and many openly express their, shall we say, dislike for the conservative way of thinking. We rarely hear from conservatives in the entertainment industry, so I would like to say thank you for being one of the few elites, Mr. Woolery. My question is this. Was it easy for you to go public with your conservative views, and did you experience any negative reactions from within the industry?
No and yes. It was not easy, realizing that it was to no advantage for me to do that, and that is my self-interest. I'm not running for office. I have no eye on office, so that would not profit me. It certainly is not a career move going against the establishment of Hollywood and the progressive attitudes out there, so that is of no profit to me. So my decision was, and I don't mean this as some kind of noble gesture on my part, it really came down to, I have a voice, I'm an American, this is what I believe, I think this is the truth. How can I take people who used to watch me, who do watch me, and help them understand what I think is going on, and see if they agree with me, and see if they will move in tandem with me to change what's going on in Washington. I'm a small voice, I know that, and this is a very tough project, trying to get these guys to term limit themselves. It is certainly not in their interest to do it, so we have to force them to do it. And as a voting constituency of conservatives, we have to do this, or if we don't, we're going to die as socialists, and that's the truth.
Yep.
So I just felt it was time to make that move, and I did without any regard to myself or anything else. I just felt like it was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
If you go to restartcongress.org and they go on there and they punch my video up, they'll see exactly how I feel and where I've come. It's about a 3 or 4 minute video, and maybe they can better understand what my motivation is.
Well, if there's just one video, and I know they're watching more than that, but if there's just one video, that's the one I recommend they see, because I think I couldn't agree more with you. That's the biggest problem we have right now. You've got people that come in with no private sector experience. They don't know what it's like out in the business world, but they're coming in to regulate these businesses. They spend their whole lives in these positions without ever having lived a day in the average American's shoes.
Well, one of the things that this country was founded on was freedom and liberty. And one of the things that government is founded on is control and manipulation. So government actually operates with the opposite result, wanting the opposite result than the American people do. So in order to keep that consistent on any level at all, you have to put people in on a regular basis and turn them over. You have to term limit them, because they will become part of the control, part of the ruling class if you don't. And that's what we're seeing as a result in Washington. It's been going on for probably since Andrew Jackson. He was the first one to really promote the idea of people staying on in office so that he would have more control. Up to that point, they kind of, went in for a couple of years, came out. Senators were appointed, not elected. And 17th Amendment had a lot to do with that, with Woodrow Wilson, when he changed that. Now, I didn't know what the 17th Amendment was, nor did I understand how significant it was in our government. But the 17th Amendment will probably never be overturned. And once we started electing U.S. senators instead of them being appointed by the legislature, all of that incredible power left the states and went to the centralized government. And that's exactly where they wanted it. And they did it through the auspices of democracy, of people voting for their senator instead of them being appointed by the legislatures that they voted for. Senators did nothing more than, quite frankly, vote with their legislature. If you were from Maryland or Florida or wherever, you were sent with instructions, this bill's coming up, this is how we want you to vote. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't, they would recall them.
Right.
And they were there for 6 years, and they turned them over so that they couldn't become polluted and completely corrupted. So that's been gone for a very long time, and we're used to living in a world where senators are elected, they stay for a long, long time, they become corrupted by the system that they're in, and it's not good for us as Americans. We need to change these things. We really need to change it. And I think when we change that, we'll see other things change that are very important to us.
We've got to get back to we the people. That's the bottom line.
Well, that's the point. The point is that we're supposed to be in charge. That's what Franklin was talking about. It's a citizen government, and it's not a citizen government anymore. It's a ruling class government that we continually reelect these people, expecting a different result over and over and over again, and we'll never get it. So we need to pay a little more attention. I'm just asking people to wake up and find out what the truth is.
Well, you're doing a great job with it. One thing I'd like to know is, throughout history, is there one politician or a couple of politicians that you most relate to? It's
so sad, and it's funny, no one's ever asked me this question, but the minute you asked me that, I thought to myself, how sad is it that I have to go back to the Founding Fathers, that I can't be really, really current and say, yes, there's someone current that I think is great and I think does a good job and I think has the American people in their sights more than they have themselves. I literally, it is very, very tough to think of people who have done this. I mean, from presidents to senators to congressmen, I honestly can't think of anyone except the original Founding Fathers.
It is sad. There are a few, but they're few and far between of current politicians that I actually agree with a lot of the things they say, but you're right. It is a shame that you have to go back to the Founding Fathers.
I mean, that's sad. That
Yes.
is really sad.
Yes, it is. I
could be wrong, by the way. There may be people that I'm just not aware of that I could research and look at and say, oh, these people did a great job, and, they didn't spend their entire lives in the Senate and the Congress, and they did a great job as president and so on. But, no, I think that George Washington set a great example. The interesting thing about Washington is that he didn't want to be president. which I find fascinating.
Absolutely.
People who have a desire for great power have an ability to misuse it.
Yep.
And when you start spending $1 billion to become president, what kind of desire is that? And when you start spending millions to become senator and $1 million to become a congressman, I mean, there's something wrong with that, something terribly wrong, that these people want to be in these positions of power, so it means that it's to their advantage, not to yours.
And that leaves us all guessing, what's the motivation here?
Well, we don't need to, if we have term limits, we really don't need to care what their motivation is, because we'll be turning them over so quick that it won't matter. We'll get them out of there and get new people in. And, you start vetting these people. I mean, it's just so easy not to do it. It's so easy to sit back and relax and wait, but it's a battle. Government is a fight. It's a fight like a war. And they've waged war on us. Now, what we need to do is take up arms and start waging war on them, make them afraid of us. I mean, Jefferson said it. If the government fears the people, it's liberty. If the people fear the government, it's tyranny. So we live in tyranny right now. We need to live in liberty, like so much blood and treasure has been spent so that we could live in liberty.
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite all-time quotes, too.
Yeah.
One thing, I know you've got one thing when I was doing the research for this, one of the things that surprised me, I didn't know about, was your great passion for fishing and your great product line of moto lures. Can you tell us a little about that? Great.
I fish every day. In fact, I used a moto lure yesterday.
Excellent. How'd you do?
I did fine. I got 3. It wasn't a great day. I don't want to bore people with, my wife tells me, she said, nobody's quite as interested in this as you are. So if you'll notice their eyes rolling in the back of their head when you're talking about big bass, you leave the room and do them a favor. So,
I could listen to it.
So I try to minimize my passion for bass fishing, realizing that everybody has the same passion.
Well, what was your motivation behind starting that line and offering that product?
There were things out there that I couldn't find that I wanted. The first product, the Moto Lure, was something that someone gave me. I bought that company and ended up buying the company, and all of a sudden being embroiled in the bass fishing business, not realizing where it was going to take me. But it was just such a great lure, and I bought the company to make sure I never ran out of them again.
There you go.
That's right. It was self-interest completely.
Well, I've got the link to that as well, and I want everybody to check it out. One thing I thought was really cool is it looks like a great product, and it's very reasonably priced.
Oh, it works great. I'll, since you asked me, I'll explain it, but I won't get through this. I won't belabor it. It's a topwater lure, so you get to hear it, feel it, see the hit. That's what most people like to do if they fish.
Okay.
The other thing, it's a popper or a chugger. It also has not an electric motor in it, but a stainless steel motor that works on tension. And so when you throw it out there, the tail flips up and down. It creates a pattern around it. It looks like a trick, frankly, and it is. And the fish fall for it. It has a lot of clicks, a lot of sound. So noise attracts the fish, and motion triggers the strike. So it incorporates all of that and stays in the strike zone longer than any other single topwater lure I've ever used. So that's why I wanted them. That's why I like them. I use them in open water or little areas where you can't get a bait through it, and they just work great. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, next time I'm in Texas, maybe you can take me out and show me some of these. That'd be
Absolutely.
great.
Be happy to.
Hey, I want to let you get going here. I know you've had a long morning already, and I appreciate you spending time with me. What, if there's one last message that Chuck Woolery would like to send out to the American people, what would that be?
Please make sure when you get your information and your knowledge that it's good information, that you're not being misled. Take the time to find out what's going on. Understand that Washington is not as complicated as they would like for you to think that it is, that the average person just like you could be a congressman easily. All you got to do is go for the office. You deserve to be there any more than just as much as any other person is there. Get these people out of office. Get these incumbents out that won't term limit themselves, and get people in that will. Let's get a 28th Amendment passed that will term limit Congress, and we will start to see progress in our government. The right kind of progress, not the left kind of progress.
Wow. That's a great message. And Mr. Woolery, thank you so much for coming on the Don Smith Show.
You've been very kind.
Today.
I appreciate it. Thanks for letting me get my message out.